If you ask folks around Lisbon, New York, where the cemetery road is, you're going to get more than directions. You're going to get a pause. You're going to get a glance to see if you're serious. And then maybe a warning to stick to, well, pretty much any other road. On a map, the cemetery road, it looks ordinary. Shorter connector that winds past, a few houses, a couple of fields, some trees, before spitting you back onto the county roads. But this map, well, it's not going to tell you the whole story. The first thing you're going to notice when you drive down it is its signs. At one end, it's green, normal looking, well, street sign that reads cemetery. Cemetery road. Neat. Seems correct. But on the other end, it's spelled a little bit differently. Cemetary road. And it's just different enough to make your stomach potentially twist in your brain. Wonder why? And who did it? Why is it? Is it intentional? Did somebody mess up? Well, if you ask the town, if you ask the county, it insists it's just a little bit of a clerical error, because they couldn't just put a new sign out there, right? And maybe it's just the kind of mix-up that happens in small, rural towns. It probably happens all the time, right? But if you live here, you know better. That difference isn't an accident. It's a marker. Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Street Sign Storytime, where we drive all over the place looking for interesting street names. We didn't have to drive too far because an old classmate of mine, who's ironically living very, very far from this road on the other side of the U.S., said, hey, you got to do something on the cemetery road, a road that I grew up on. And I said, you got it. So, without further ado, here is the Street Sign Storytime tale and history and mystery of the cemetery road. Because one of the first families to really talk about, the cemetery road, quietly, probably over coffee, at the Lisbon diner were the Crookshanks. They've done a little bit of everything in the area, from farmers to datchers. They've dated back to, this land probably before the Great Depression. And they know about every fence post and stone wall on this road. Ask them about the fog that sits at the crooked bend, and you'll see their eyes go flat, like shutters slamming down. Oh, Mr. Crookshank, the old patriarch, once told his grandson that back in the 60s, the town asked him to replace the southern road sign. He lugged the new one down the gravel, but halfway through the bend, the ground under him seemed to ripple, like he was walking across water. He froze, because he swore he saw a man step out of the mist. Ahead of him, a man wearing his same, work boots, his same Carhartt jacket, his same face, only older. The other Crookshank carried a sign too, but his was bent and rusted, as if it had been standing in the weather for 50 years. And the younger Crookshank dropped his sign and did what any other man would do. Run. He made it home, but when he looked at the clock, half the day was gone. Though the sun was still hanging exactly where it had been. He never touched another road sign again. Then there's the Races, who also live on that road, and they've had their own troubles on the cemetery road, though theirs are quieter, harder to kind of pin down. Their house sits near kind of the middle of the stretch, on the bottom of a hill, the part where the asphalt kind of smooths out, and the trees grow so close they blot out of the sky. Inside that house, time doesn't behave. Clocks, they tick too fast, then stall for hours. A drive into Lisbon Center can take 5 minutes one day and 30 the next, though the distance never changes. Old Mrs. Race, the matriarch, kept journals for years. Neat handwriting, every day marked. She wrote about bread that burned in the oven in half the time it should have, and nights where her kids came home from school before the buses had even left the lot. One entry tells of her driving down the road at dusk, only to pass the same sagging red barn, not once, not twice, but 3 times in a row, almost like she was stuck in a loop. She stopped journaling after her husband found one of her notebooks dated 10 years into the future. No one has seen those journals since. Some, they say she burned them. Others, they said that they ended up down in the Outer Banks in the ocean off a fishing boat. And others think the Lawtons might have took them for safekeeping, because that's going to bring us to the Lawtons. Everyone in Lisbon knows that Lawton's electric. You see the sign, you need something fixed, you head that way. They can do it all. If they really wanted, they probably could fix your wiring in an old farmhouse. They'll bring some fuses or sell you some fuses, to the barn, to your plumbing. Whatever you need. Maybe they'd even run a new line out in the sticks. They've got a reputation. If the Lawtons can't fix it, it probably can't be fixed. But what most people don't realize is that their specialty isn't just wiring. It's Cemetery Road itself. Whenever the road acts up, headlights flickering, radios filling with voices that don't belong to any station, it's not Murs in the morning. Who is that? It isn't the sheriff or the town that gets called. It's the Lawtons. They'll roll up in their trucks with their toolboxes, though half of what they unload doesn't look like tools you're going to find at any big store or even Howlin' Pump. People talk about rods that hum like tuning forks, spools of copper wire that glow faint, blue even in daylight, and strange little boxes with dials that seem to measure something other than volts. More than one driver has seen old James kneeling right in the middle of the asphalt. They've also seen Ben. They've seen all the Lawtons do this, hammering some shimmering device into the road itself. Sparks, they shot upward into the night like, fireworks. But by morning, the hum in the ground was gone, and the road was silent again. You can ask any of the Lawtons about it. They're going to laugh. They're just going to say it's a bad transformer, old wiring, just needed a quick little reset. But the families know better. The Crookshanks, the Races, everybody else on that road, they talk about the Lawtons the way a ship's crew talks about the man who patches the hull at sea. You don't question them. You just thank them for keeping the water out. What's hiding there? Between the mismatched signs is something older than wiring and deeper than asphalt. Call it a portal. Call it a tear. Call it whatever you want. But it doesn't ask permission. One night you're driving home with groceries in the back seat, the kids dozing off, and the next, your headlights dim for no reason. The radio cuts out. The air grows heavy, like it's pressing on the roof of your car. And, well, if you're unlucky enough to slow down, if you stop in that stretch, you might not come back the same. Some don't come back at all. There's a man in town who won't drive that road anymore, not since he swerved to avoid a deer and ended up parked on the shoulder in the fog. He swears he saw a woman waving at him from the ditch. He got out thinking she was hurt, but when he reached her, there was nothing, just the smell of wet earth and something metallic, like ozone. By the time he climbed back in this truck, the radio was blasting an AM station. This station hasn't existed since 1975, playing a baseball game between teams that don't even exist anymore. Rest in peace to the Expos. He made a home, but his hair had gone white. Temples, he won't speak a word about what he saw. And yet, the signs remain, spelled differently on each end, like bookends on a shelf that don't quite line up. The county doesn't replace them anymore. They know it wouldn't matter. The letters, they would just change themselves. The families along the road, they don't complain. They've made their peace. Crookshank land, Raceland, the Lawtons, and their humming tools. It's their burden to carry. So I guess if you ever find yourself in Lisbon, you stop over at Bill Rapp Chevy and you want to take a test drive, well, you might be tempted to take the shortcut. Pay attention. Watch the signs. If you notice the letters don't look right, don't keep going. Because Cemetery Road isn't just a strip of blacktop. It's a seam. And seams, if you pull at them a little bit too hard, eventually, guess what? They come apart. And when they do, you won't want to be standing there. That's all we got. Thank you to my dude, Sean, for making this recommendation. Hopefully I did it justice. If you got a recommendation like him, drop it in the comments. Can't thank you enough. We'll be back next week. Take care, everybody.